today's Whiteboard Leadership moment, I want to talk to you about movement creation in the church. The fact is that every church itself is a movement. It's a movement of people moving forward in God's purposes. And it's real important for leaders to understand how do we maintain momentum? How do we get people moving in the beginning, create the inertia to move forward? How do we adjust and make sure that things that are happening in the life of the church are the right things, that we're focused on the right things? And so I've looked over the years and observed in churches these 7 different traits or characteristics, these 7 things I've seen in common with effective movements in the church. Also, if you look at the book of Nehemiah or the life of Jesus, you'll see many of these things are very, very clear in their lives and their ministries as well. Let's just walk through them. The first is this, that at the beginning of before the large movement began, there was always a grassroots effort. There were a few people that were ahead of the curve, a few people that saw things before anyone else saw them and experienced them before anyone else experienced them. It's so important for leadership to be that small group that sees those things and is a part of those things. And a lot of times that doesn't happen in the life of the church. We went to a seminar or we heard a speaker, we just decided to go ahead and do it and tell the whole crowd, this is what I think we should do. But if you look at Scripture and you look at the health of the church, there's almost always a grassroots movement who's ahead. For example, if you want your church to become generous, I would encourage you that your leadership walk through the book, The Treasure Principle, together and start applying those things to your life so that there's a moral authority to your life as you tell others to become generous, because you've already begun the journey and you're saying, hey, follow me as I follow Christ. So the first thing is to create a grassroots movement. The second is this, to establish a process, a plan, a progression. Very often things don't happen just all of a sudden. You don't just all of a sudden the entire crowd has things happen. Beforehand there has to be a lot of prayer, a lot of planning, and figuring out what are the steps we want to take first, second, and third. And so what is your plan to engage ever-growing audiences of people? The third is this, is to create a crisis of awareness. The fact is, in most leadership scenarios, the ordinary people don't see the crisis at hand. And when I say crisis, I'm not talking about the sky is falling crisis. I'm talking about an awareness and a sense of discontent, saying this can't continue the way it is. Someone's got to do something. In fact, all of us have to do something. The next step is to create the power of peer invitation. It's so much easier to convince a crowd when there's already people in the crowd who are already on the journey. What we did at our church was we tried to create a tiered communication plan. For example, we were going to do a building campaign as a church, and so we went to our board, and just the leadership team and the board talked about it, prayed about it, figured out how we were going to get involved in this building campaign, and then we went to the staff team. And we told the staff team about it, had them pray about it, think about it, and then told them, listen, in a few weeks we're going to have a meeting, and we want you to invite your 2 top volunteers to that meeting. And so at that meeting, we had about 100 people at the meeting, and we talked to them about our desire to have the building campaign start and why. We created the crisis of awareness with them, and we asked them to be involved and said, listen, we want you to be ahead of the game. We're telling you because you're the ones who we're building the ministry on your backs. We're building the ministry on your giftedness, and we need you to be ahead of the game and be a part of the leadership. And we said, listen, in fact, we want you to take the time, and all of you can now invite 5 more people to come. And so we went from 100 people to 600 people at the next gathering and talked to them about it. Again, we were a large church, and so that was about 20% of our church. And not every church is that size, so you don't have to use all these levels, but you get the idea. And so we brought these 600 people together and told them about it and asked them to be the volunteers in the building campaign. And most of them jumped in because we told them not everyone knows this. This is selective. You have a special knowledge that not everyone has. And it was only after that we began to invite and tell the entire congregation. That's the power of peer invitation and the power of tiered communication to get people involved ahead of time so that they're on the solution side of a conversation. The next one is this, a corporate season of focus. In the book of Nehemiah, you see that Nehemiah has a plan. He's talked to the king, he's prayed, he's gone to the city, he's looked around, and then he talks to the leadership of the community and talks about how they can be involved. Everything I just mentioned in our conversation with the church. And then chapter 3, you see this beautiful picture of every person getting involved. It's a corporate season of focus. It's so important to do that. The next one is the power of alignment. One of the leaders in this understanding of the power of alignment is Rick Warren from Saddleback Church. His 40 days of purpose and 40 days of love and 40 days of focus helps churches focus on one thing for an entire season. See, one of the goals in church is this, that you want to win the conversation at the Sunday night dinner table. Whatever's talked about there is the most important thing to prepare them for the rest of the week. And when everyone in children's ministry and student ministries and adult ministry is talking about this building campaign or this prayer emphasis or this opportunity, when all of them are being trained on this and having conversations about this in the classrooms at church on Sunday morning, it will be the dinner conversation on Sunday night. That means you're asking for some things, for big things that are church-wide things, you're asking everyone to stop what they're doing for a short season, 6 weeks or so. So I don't want you doing these Bible studies or doing that focus. All of us are going to have the same conversation, and we're going to align not just the Sunday school classes, but we're going to have devotionals, we're going to have sermons, we're going to have small groups. All those things are going to align around this certain issue. And then finally, after the season of focus is over, a plan for a maintained momentum. In the 40 days of purpose, the most important day was day 41. It's what happens now, how will we change? In our case, what we told people to do in that scenario was, hey, whatever step God's asking you to take, would you just take it? And we provided avenues for them to take it. If it was coming to Christ, they came to Christ during the series, but right after the series was over, we had baptism, we had discipleship, we had the ability to serve, we had ability to get involved in missions. Whatever their next step was, leadership development, whatever it was, we anticipated what that step was and continued to take that momentum and move it forward in the life of the church. Listen, your church has momentum. Your church is moving in a certain direction. But these are some ways to make sure that the movement you're creating in your church continues to move forward. This has been a Converge Whiteboard Leadership Moment. To learn more about Converge or to join us, check out converge.org.